Hey everyone, I'm Theresa Kulikowski-Gillespie. I'm a functional medicine physician assistant, and I want to talk a little bit about a practice called tapping. So, as a functional medicine provider, I really try to look at all areas of somebody's life when it comes to health and well being and really living up to your fullest potential. And so that requires looking at mind, body, and spirit. And the emotional aspect of illness is interesting because we oftentimes isolate things out and we say, oh, this is a mental emotional issue or this is a physical issue. And in reality, we can't distinguish between those two. And so if I'm working with somebody, and even in my own experience being ill, I have had to open up my mind to say, let's look at you as a whole being. Let's look at myself as a whole being where the mind is connected to the body, is connected to emotions, is connected to nature. Everything is interconnected. And so that's really what functional medicine is. It's a system of systems approach. So we're looking at how systems interact together to optimize function. It's definitely easier to look at things in isolation, right? I mean, it's easier to say, I'm a cardiologist. I only look at your heart and your blood vessels and how those function. Or I'm only an endocrinologist and I only look at hormones and how those are affecting your body. That is a simplistic view of how we exist as human beings. And if we are only looking at ourselves through these lenses of one system at a time, we're doing ourselves a disservice, and we as providers are doing our patients a disservice because we don't exist in isolation like that. All of our systems are working together. So, what I'm introducing today might seem like it's more of a mental, emotional, or it might kind of fall under that mental, emotional umbrella. But again, we can't tease apart the mind and the body and emotions. So in this way, we're addressing the entirety of our being. So tapping, also called emotional freedom technique, or you may have heard it called EFT, is a process of tapping on acupressure points in our bodies while we're processing emotions and also, feeling different changes in our bodies. So we can use this tool with pretty much anything. If you're feeling overwhelmed with anxiety or maybe something that feels more emotional at its root, like anxiety or fear or maybe jealousy or anger or something like that, we can use it. If it's something that might be more rooted in our bodies at first, like it feels like it's muscle pain or tightness, or maybe I'm clenching my jaw or I'm feeling reflux or some kind of symptom in the body, we can use it with that. We can use it in relationship to other people. If we're struggling in relationship, we can use it. So this is really a tool that can be used with lots of different issues that we're dealing with. That's why I love it. It's also free. You could do it anywhere, anytime. I mean, you might want to do it not so much around other people because they might kind of look at you, but yeah, who cares? If it's helpful, then do it anyways. So I'm going to walk you through the process and show you a little bit about what tapping is and how we do it. So it starts by bringing to mind whatever the issue is, and you start by tapping on what's called the karate chop point. And it's right on the back of the hand here, along the pinky side of your hand. And you just tap here, okay? And the opening phrase or the introductory phrase would be something along the lines of, so say I'm working with anxiety. Even though I'm feeling very anxious right now, I love and accept myself. And we say that 3 times. So even though I'm feeling very anxious, I love and accept myself. Even though I feel really anxious right now, I completely love, accept, and forgive myself. So that's your opening statement. You can also tweak it to what feels right for you. And then you start tapping through the points. So I'm going to show you the points, and then I'll walk you through how we would use this with something like anxiety. So the first point is right at the inner aspect of the eyebrow. So you're tapping here, like with 2 fingers, and you only have to use one hand. You can use both, but you can just do it with one hand. So the eyebrow, and then you come along to the outer edge of the eye. This is your first point, second point, then under the eye is the third point, then under the nose, then right under the ridge of the lip, and then basically over the sternum. Sometimes people tap right under the collarbones, but if you're using one hand, it can just kind of be right over the upper aspect of the sternum. And then underneath the arm, so like right underneath your armpit on the side, and then the crown of the head. So we'll do it again. You just tap for a few seconds on each point. So here, and then the outside of the eye, under the nose, under the lip, sternum, under the arm, crown of the head. So one way to use this is just to simply tap, and you don't have to say anything or do anything. You can just kind of tap, and you might notice that as you're doing it, things start to shift. You might notice like the energy in your body shifts a little bit. Sometimes it gets stronger, sometimes it gets less. But we're just kind of using some mindfulness to notice what's happening in our bodies and in our minds as we go through this tapping. So if we were to use this with this example of the anxiety, right, we would start with our karate chop point, stating the introductory phrase, even though I feel this anxiety, I love and accept myself. And then you start tapping through the points, and you can basically just say what's coming up for you. In a way, you're kind of venting a little bit. We don't want to get caught up in the story around what's going on, but you could just kind of start talking like, oh my gosh, I feel this anxiety in my body. I feel my heart's pounding. I feel my face is turning red. I feel just anxious, and I don't like it. I don't like this anxiety in my body. It's really frustrating. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And then I might pause and just kind of continue to tap. And then I might notice, okay, I'm kind of noticing a little bit of a shift, that this anxiety is coming more central into my abdomen, kind of in the solar plexus region. And it's frustrating. It's scary. I don't like feeling this. I wish it would go away. And just feeling into what's going on. You can close your eyes if it's easier to feel into what's happening with your eyes closed. Otherwise, just moving through the points. Okay, I notice this anxiety. Maybe I can actually create a little bit of space for it. Maybe I feel a little bit more okay to have this anxiety right now. And then you just take a pause. So you end with the crown of the head. Take a breath, check in, and then notice how you feel. So you might also, before you even start, you can rate yourself on 1 to 10. How strong is this anxiety? How bothersome is it? How charged is it? And like, okay, it started as a 9, and I did 3 rounds, and I might pause and check in, and okay, kind of still feels like a 9, or maybe it's dropped to a 7, or maybe it's gone up to a 10. And then you do a couple more rounds. So just feeling into this anxiety again. I notice this anxiety. I'm feeling a little bit more okay with it. I notice this shift in my body, that it's actually calming down some, and it's okay to feel anxious. There's nothing wrong with me that I'm feeling anxious. It's a normal human emotion. I'm creating more space for it, and I actually feel that it's calming down in my body just a little bit. The breath is more fluid. I'm just going to take a few breaths and finish up this round, and then breathe. And then check in again. Okay, it's actually like at a 5 right now. It's much less. So you can see, You could do a couple rounds to start, and then you check in, and then do a couple more rounds. When I say a round, I mean starting here, going through all the points, and ending up at the crown of your head. Um, and yeah, I mean, you can do this throughout the day. If you notice a really charged emotion, do a couple rounds of tapping. Or if you notice that you're in a lot of physical pain that day, doing some tapping around that. You can also set aside specific time to do like 5 or 10 minutes of just tapping. So you can do it in more of what I would say a formal practice, kind of like formal meditation, where it's a set aside time where you're just going to do some tapping, some focused tapping for 5 to 10 minutes. And then you can do what I tend to call informal practice, where it's just in the moment you sense into something and you feel like you need some added support. And you can use this tool of tapping or emotional freedom technique. Now, I do have to say, I wouldn't use this if you have a really charged trauma history around a feeling or an emotion. That's something to process with a trauma-informed therapist. This I would use, at least to begin with less charged emotion or things that aren't as huge in your awareness. And then as you get more comfortable with it and you feel okay utilizing this tool, then maybe you can ease into more deeply charged emotions. But I hope this is helpful for you. I always think of life as just, you know, it, the more tools we have in our life coping toolkit, the better off we are. Life isn't always easy. Life can be wonderful, and it can also just be so hard sometimes. And so I feel like in my own healing journey, tapping has been really helpful. You can use it whether you're chronically ill. You can use it if you're trying to optimize performance. Maybe you're having some performance anxiety before a competition, before a match or a meet. You do a few rounds of tapping and just kind of help your nervous system come into balance. So if you're interested in learning more, please reach out to me, Theresa at kestrelwellness.com, or you can message me on Facebook. I look forward to connecting, and I hope this is helpful.